right. Well, everybody, wow, a lot of volume there. Whole lot of volume. Okay. Everybody, here we are at the beginning of Black History Month. And this is a time when we are not just thinking about Black history in the sense of studying the past abstractly. We're thinking about Black history in the sense of what it tells us we need to do today, what we need to do tomorrow, how we need to change this city and this country. Black History Month is an acknowledgement of a truth so often untold. And right here in this city, there is a painful history and then another very beautiful history. The painful history is the role that New York City played, the very cynical role that New York City played for decades and decades in the slave trade. The beautiful history is the fact that this is one of the places where the abolitionist movement thrived. There was a fight for decency and justice and humanity, and it was not easy. Talk about going against the grain, the abolitionist movement. Black and white abolitionists together, female and male abolitionists together, went against the grain of the norm of society in the most extraordinary manner. And they were considered outcasts and militants until more and more people heard their message and understood their truth. And ultimately, the abolitionist movement prevailed. But in that history is such a clear message to us about the truths we still have to uncover about today and the things we have to fix now. So that's what brings us here today. Because when we talk about 227 Duffield Street, we're not just talking about a building. We're talking about a deeper history and something we cannot afford to lose because it's part of our heart and soul. And it's a story that needs to be told much more deeply. It was the home of the noted abolitionists Harriet and Thomas Truesdell. It was a refuge for those fleeing slavery. And remember that for so long in this country, fleeing slavery was not treated as a heroic act, but was treated as an act of illegality. The Underground Railroad, even here in New York City, was needed to protect people from unjust laws across our nation. That past was in so many ways swept aside, covered up, ignored, but some fought to preserve it and the larger meaning. One of those was Mama Joy, who understood Mama Joy understood there was a power and truth on Duffield Street that could not be lost, and that all the modern forces of quote-unquote development, quote-unquote progress should not be allowed to wipe away the history. And because she fought, we're here today. If she had not fought, this would have simply been lost. So God bless her. We say rest in peace, we say rest in power, but I also say remember her actions live today in what we are doing right now.
That's right.
So this was a battle for justice led by members of the community in Brooklyn. I'm happy to say the community prevailed. And I will tell you, from the first time that this issue was raised to Shirlane and I, Shirlane felt it was a matter of absolute importance. And she said to everyone in City Hall, we have to get this right. We cannot let this go. We cannot just go with the conventional wisdom. We have to do what's right. We have to realize there's something bigger at stake. And she made very clear to everyone in the city government that this had to be handled differently. And that is the person she's been throughout her life, always fighting for justice, for social justice, even when it wasn't convenient. That's one of the reasons I love her. Our First Lady, Shirlane McCray.
Thank you, Bill, and good morning, everyone. Good morning. I am thrilled to celebrate 227 Duffield, New York City's newest designated landmark. And it is fitting that as we begin Black History Month, we are honoring those who fought to save the physical evidence of our history. There are many people to thank. Shanae Lee, Imani Henry, Aaliyah Vaughn, the members of the Landmarks Preservation Commission, every activist who played a role in this struggle, and especially Joy Chattel, also known as Mama Joy, whose story you will hear more about in just a bit from her daughter, Shanae. Mama Joy gave all of us a powerful gift and a lesson. She saw the beauty and importance of this house. She took it upon herself not to sell it, but to protect it, to let people know what took place there. She taught children about the bravery of our ancestors and celebrated those who are fighting for freedom right here in this city. It's hard to research and identify Underground Railroad sites for obvious reasons, but the Landmarks Preservation Commission has designated 17 sites in New York City, every confirmed site that we know of. Now, I want to note that over the past year, I've been retracing my own family history, and I've been learning about the amazing life of my great-grandmother in Harlem, the progressive St. Michael's Church she attended, how active she was in the Garvey movement, and I asked myself, why didn't I know all this before? And the reality is, for most of us, that holding on to records and property and even stories has been difficult. And America has never given Black achievements in history the value it deserves. And so we haven't always valued it ourselves. We throw away old letters and memorabilia, or they are lost. The family secrets no longer needed for our protection stay secret. Our gathering places are sold and renamed. Think of how much Black history our buildings and our public spaces hold. The forgotten Seneca Village in Central Park, the house where Langston Hughes wrote, "Montage of a Dream Deferred." The office in Crown Heights where Shirley Chisholm ran for president. When I wrote the commission last year, I wrote about the African adage, until the lion learns to write, every story will glorify its hunter. That is my message for everyone who's listening today. It's on us. We have to own our history. We have to go back and understand it. It's on us to give it value. If Mama Joy hadn't done that, none of us would be celebrating here today. So I urge everyone, interview your parents and grandparents, save your family photos, your heirlooms, write down your family stories. Recognize that we too are making history that will one day be remembered. And let us all applaud this fine family, holding on to Mama Joy's dream, making it their own dream, and seeing it through. That is really something we should all celebrate.
And with that note, honoring her mother with her own activism and keeping the dream alive so it could come to fruition, my honor to introduce Shanae Lee.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is a very emotional day for me. It's funny that the First Lady mentions hold on to keepsakes and letters. And yesterday, I found this letter from my mom, and it was given to me on my 21st birthday. It says, "For being you, Shanae, every 21 years of your life was God's gift to me. What you made of it was my gift to God. And right now, I know God is very proud of me for giving him one of the best gifts of all, his eternal being. So have a wonderful day, my baby, and thank you for helping me do my job. Love, Mommy." I want to say, Mommy, thank you for helping me do the job. that you started, for giving us all that fire that we all saw in you, for keeping the name of Thomas and Harriet Lee Truesdale alive, for keeping the name of Duffield Street alive, for people knowing the name 227 Abolitionist Place. And I will make it my duty for the world to know your name, Mama Joy. I love you, Mom.
Shanae, that's really beautiful. Thank you. And your mom is hearing that message right now. So many community activists fought to protect this site and to bring out the true history. And one of the groups that led the way, Equality for Flatbush, focused on the history, made sure it was kept alive. And the leader of that effort, Imani Henry, joins us today.
So first and foremost, I just want to thank the Chattel Lee family, our freedom fighters right here. I want to thank Raul, Justin, and all. These are folks, and I feel humbled to be part of and play just a small part in a 17-year-long struggle to save not only Mama Joy's house at 227 Duffield, but that entire block. That she fought for her neighbors, she fought to make sure that we would obtain and sustain this history. And I look at this victory today as a struggle that is a victory for so many people. This is a victory for every single enslaved African person that had to make an incredible and courageous decision of whether or not to throw themselves overboard that slave ship or to survive and get to an unknown place with unknown tortures and violence they would never have thought would occur. I always say I don't know what was more courageous, what was more brave. This is a victory for every freedom fighter that led our people through the swamps, that played a role as a conductor in the Underground Railroad, that risked their lives to shield and hold and keep Black people safe on our journey to freedom. But most importantly, this is a struggle about the gentrification of Brooklyn, New York. This is why Mama Joy fought. Right now, we are seeing so many blocks of downtown Brooklyn demolished for high-rise buildings, and she said, no, I will not. This is for every single person who lost their home over eminent domain that built the Barclay Center. This is Mama Joy's vision and understanding about how to keep our neighborhood safe. So I say to every single Black Lives Matter activist that says Black Lives Matter, for every single protester that was beaten this summer, for every single tenant that right now is fighting for height and hot water, that's fighting to stay in their home, fighting displacement, every homeowner, every small business, this struggle, this victory is for you. We are all a part of this. This is a struggle of grassroots organizing. I am so proud to stand with grassroots organizers, that the bottom line is to never give up, even if it takes 17 years, to have that tenacity, to have that strength, to have that drive. As a great friend of mine, Christine Lewis says with Domestic Workers United, if you struggle, you'll win. Thank you so much.
Well, in the vein of if you struggle, you'll win, our next speaker fought for years, going back to the struggle against apartheid in South Africa and right up until today. I am told, and I want to see if it's right, that you fought for the release of Nelson Mandela and Walter Sisulu, held by the South African dictatorship. So, well done, who we both worked for. So we were all together. Someone who stays in the struggle will realize those victories. And here is another victory today. So congratulations and thank you. And I introduce Aaliyah Vaughn.
Good day. It is a good day today. I want to just remind people, some of you may or may not know, my name is Aaliyah Baki Vaughn, and I have the privilege of being the executive director of the Circle for Justice Innovations. And you may wonder what that is. It is an organization that has been engaging in participatory grant making for over 20 years. This is our 21st year, our year of independence. And we've been funding grassroots organizations led by people who have been impacted by the system, that have been working to end mass criminalization, mass incarceration, and state violence. And what, you may ask, does that have to do with this house? I'm here to remind us that those who do not know their history are doomed to repeat it. And so in this situation, we understand that what we're now fighting against, right, what we're now seeking to transform, to dismantle and to reorganize that criminal justice system, well, with others called other kind of names, that system has its legacy, its roots in slavery and genocide. And so it is incumbent upon us to remember the history and the legacy of not only the injustice, but also the resistance, the organizing that put an end to it. Here in Brooklyn was a hotbed of abolitionist activity, abolitionist organizing. And we know that people were putting not only their buildings on the line, because many people had their buildings burnt down when they were identified as organizers, but they also put their lives on the line. In other places, they were tarred and feathered, they were killed. And so these people who were courageous have demonstrated for us what the path is to justice, as did Mama Joy. And I just have to bring this to remembrance. I'm sorry, Sister Shanae, but I think people need to understand. It wasn't just that Mama Joy stood up and spoke. It was that Mama Joy was targeted, that her entire block was demolished, and yet her building stands today, because she was willing to take on then Mayor Bloomberg, who declared eminent domain and had a vision that had nothing to do with the history and the memory of those who had struggled. And so she took that fight on in spite of threats that she was getting, in spite of people coming up to her with a gun, in spite of flooding when those hotels were built, in spite of what it did to her home. She stood still like a rock. And her example was so steadfast that over a decade later, new people, young people coming into the struggle remembered Mama Joy and said, oh yeah, we have to keep this fight going. And so when we wrote the letter to Mayor de Blasio and to First Lady Charlene, we didn't know what response we were going to get. But we did get a response back that said, this is something that we didn't know about. We're going to stop everything so we can look into it. That's not something that always happens, let me tell you. And since that time, we continue to organize. This time last year, I think maybe we're off by 1 or 2 days. This time last year, we were dressed up as abolitionists outside of the Today Show. And Al Roker took pity on us and came and stood near us with our Black Landmarks Matter sign and brought attention to this struggle. And so other journalists brought attention to it. I'm not saying this to just laud us. I'm saying this to remind us that anything that is worth having is worth fighting for. And tenacity will take you much farther than a quick, big display and going home. We kept it up. We protested, we wrote letters, we petitioned, we raised money, we went to LPC, we wrote letters to many people, we called our elected officials. We did a lot of organizing, and I'm saying we because it's really the people who responded. I can't tell you how many people told us, well, it's set for demolition, it's over now. I can't tell you how many people told us that. But we didn't give up. And so I just want to thank everyone who had any hand in that. If you sent us the $5 that helped us to or hire an attorney, if you stood in the line, if you helped us get signatures on petitions, if you sent it to your friend to sign up, anything that you did, it helped us get to the place where we are today, which is something that everybody told us couldn't happen. The house is being saved. And now you're going to start the real work of transforming that into a place where we're going to remember the history and the contributions of all those here in Brooklyn in particular, who had a say in bringing us to this place where we are. I would be remiss if I didn't thank a few people. This is not an exhaustive list. If you don't hear your name, know that we're appreciative. But I want to thank the mayor. I want to thank the First Lady. I want to thank Tahira, who was with us from the beginning, back from Letitia James' days. Obviously, Imani and Sister Shanae, you kept the spirit going for us. We thank you so much. Raul Rothblatt, Olayinka, and my man Justin, who helped us in so many ways, including putting on a janky hat in front of today's show. I want to thank Attorney General Letitia James. I want to thank Representative Stephen Levin and Elizabeth Adams, Public Advocate Jamani Williams, Borough President Eric Adams. Some of these people had a role to play in helping us to get where we are. And I won't take any more of your time, but I just wanted you to know that we don't always agree. But when it came to this house, in this particular time, we really did come together because we understood the significance of remembering our history and how important that is, not just for us, but for the children that come behind us. And I want to thank you so much for being part of that struggle with us.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Aaliyah. And to everyone, want to give everyone thanks and everyone credit. Amazing struggle. Congratulations. And more ahead to bring out the fullness of this site and what it means for all of us. And I'm especially happy that a new generation of activists is starting out. And this is what gives us all hope. We've all walked in these steps, but when you see the next generation coming forward, it reminds you so much more better ahead. Thank you, everybody.